2022, which was sponsored by the Honorable Wilberforce Oundo MP. 26, the Valuers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 18 of 2022, which was sponsored by the member for Old Jolorok, the Honorable Michael Muchira MP. 27, the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2022, which was sponsored by the member for Kisumu East, the Honorable Shakil Shabir MP. 28, the National Transport and Safety Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2022, which was sponsored by the member for Ruiru, the Honorable Simon Nganga Kihara MP. And 29, the National Land Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2022, which was sponsored by the member for Kilifi North, Honorable Owen Baya MP. Can I allow the members at the bar to take their seats? Honorable members, cognizant of the work that went into the processing of the said bills by committees and the efforts made by the members to have the bills published in the last Parliament, I request the committees to which this legislative proposal will be referred to expedite their consideration at the pre-publication scrutiny stage. Should conclusion of the scrutiny of the bills be inordinately delayed, the House Business Committee, which I will chair, will not hesitate to move this House to exempt the bills from pre-publication scrutiny so as to ensure that the bills proceed without undue delay. Honorable members, you will also recall that before the adjournment of the 12th Parliament, as I had noted in my acceptance speech, the House made progressive amendments to the rules of this House. Amongst them is the new Standing Order 114(7)A, which prescribes a new sui generis procedure for conducting pre-publication scrutiny of legislative proposals seeking to amend the Constitution. Standing Order 114(7)A provides that in respect of a proposal to amend the Constitution, the proposal shall be accompanied by signatures of at least 50 other members in support, unless it is sponsored by the majority party or the minority party. Honorable members, since the commencement of this Parliament, I have received several requests from members wishing to introduce legislative proposals to amend the Constitution. Among them are members for Kishugu constituency, the Honorable Robert Githinji Gichumu, and the member for Matungulu, Honorable Stephen Mule MP. The two members are proposing to amend the Constitution to anchor the National Government Constituency Development Fund in the Constitution. In this regard, honorable members, I request that any member seeking to introduce a legislative proposal to amend the Constitution does comply with the requirements of Standing Order 114(7)A. This requires attachment of the signatures of at least 50 other members to the legislative proposal for approval by the Speaker. Honorable members, the new Standing Order 114(7)A, in my view, shall enrich the legislative proposal process as it seeks to provide for consensus through collection of views of other members, the Attorney General, the Constitutional Commissions, and the Kenya Law Reform Commission on any proposed amendments to the Constitution. Indeed, honorable members, the new Standing Order actualizes the provisions of Article 256(2) of the Constitution, which obligates Parliament to publicize any bill to amend the Constitution and facilitate public discussion. It is also notable that Standing Order 114(1), as amended, also allows members to co-sponsor bills in the House. In this regard, Members with legislative proposals dealing with the related issues may opt to co-sponsor legislative proposals for introduction in the House. Honorable members, when adopting the report of the Procedure and House Rules Committee on amendments to standing orders, the National Assembly of the 12th Parliament also noted that there is need to amend a number of statutes that have implication on the rules of procedure. The intention of the proposed amendments is to keep them in accord with the Constitution, related laws, and the reality of modern times. The Hansard of the afternoon session of Tuesday, 31st May 2022, records that the committee also tabled 4 draft legislative proposals containing amendments to statutes that were proposed to be urgently considered to operationalize certain procedures of the House. Honorable members, the said proposals are: 1, the draft Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2022 that sought to enlarge the time for consideration of the budget policy statement from 14 to 21 days. 2, the draft Political Parties Amendment Bill 2022 that sought to require the Register of Political Parties to convey certified copies of all coalition agreements to the clerk of each House of Parliament. 3, the draft Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill 2022 that sought to streamline the membership of the Committee of Powers and Privileges. 4, the draft Petitions to Parliament Procedure Amendment Bill 2022 that sought to involve the Public Petitions Committee in the determination of the admissibility of petitions and the full consideration of all admissible petitions. 5, the draft Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill 2022 that sought to ensure the negative resolutions of the House on statutory instruments are implemented. Honorable members, to this end, the acting clerk of the National Assembly has informed me that the legislative proposals have been finalized. Consequently, to the extent that the 12th Parliament did resolve that the proposals be prioritized, I direct that they be urgently introduced in the House. Honorable members, I have yet another communication to make. Can the members at the bar take their seats? Honorable members, this communication relates to the constitution of the House Business Committee in this session of the 13th Parliament, the first session. Honorable members, as you are aware, today is the first sitting of the House following the official opening of the 13th Parliament last week. By practice, the first business of the House at the beginning of each session is the formation of the House Business Committee. Subsequently, the committee, once constituted, proceeds to determine and set the business of the House. The next set of business that follows is the consideration and passage of several procedural motions under Standing Order 97 relating to limitation of time during debates in the House. Thereafter, with respect to the first sitting following a general election, the House debates the President's address as contemplated under Standing Order 24-6. Honorable members, as you will note from today's order paper, the motion for the approval of the membership of the House Business Committee is not one of the business to be transacted today. This is because a question has since arisen relating to the constitution of the committee with respect to the names of persons under paragraphs B, C, D, and E of Standing Order 171-1. To illustrate this, honorable members, allow me to refer to the Standing Order 171-1. This rule provides that the House Business Committee consists of the following. A, the Speaker, who shall be the chairperson. B, the leader of the majority party or representative designated in writing. C, the leader of the minority party or representative designated in writing. D, the whip of the majority party or representative designated in writing. E, the whip of the minority party or representative designated in writing. F, 9 other members who shall be nominated by the parliamentary parties and approved by the House at the commencement of every session, reflecting the relative majorities of the seats held by each of the parliamentary parties in the National Assembly and taking into consideration the interests of the parties and other than parliamentary parties and independents. Honorable members, from what I have just read, you will note that the House Business Committee consists of a total of 14 members. It is also notable that besides the Speaker, 4 members sit in the committee by virtue of their offices. These are the leader of majority party, the leader of the minority party, the whip of the majority party, and the whip of the minority party. Honorable members, to this end, I wish to inform you that I received a letter dated 21st September 2022 from the Secretary General of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, MP. In the letter, the member for Suna East also signs off as the majority whip of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. In a nutshell, honorable members, the letter conveys that at its parliamentary group meeting held on the 16th to 17th September 2022, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party elected the following as its House leaders in the National Assembly. 1, the Honorable James Opio Wandai, MP, as the leader of the majority. 2, the Honorable Robert Mbui, MP, as the deputy leader of the majority. 3, the Honorable Junet Mohammed as the majority whip. And 4, the Honorable Sabina Chege, MP, as the deputy majority whip. Honorable members, I also wish to inform you that I received another letter dated 22nd September 2022 from the member for South Mugirango, the Honorable Silvanos Osoro Onyengo, MP. In the letter, which he also signs off as the majority chief whip of the Kenya Kwanza Coalition, he notifies that in discharge of his role under Standing Order 119A7, the Kenya Kwanza Coalition held its parliamentary group meeting on 16th and 17th September 2022 at Sawela Lodge in Naivasha and elected the following persons to the specified offices. 1, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, MP, the member for Kikuyu constituency, leader of the majority party. 2, the Honorable Owen Baya, MP, the member for Kilifi North constituency, deputy leader of the majority party. Honorable members, in this letter, the member for South Mugirango also attaches an excerpt of the minutes of the parliamentary group meeting and a list of members who attended the meeting signed by the attendees. Honorable members, on the same day, I also received a letter from the member for Kikuyu constituency, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, MP, dated 22nd September 2022. In the letter, the member for Kikuyu constituency signs off as leader of the majority party and conveys that the Kenya Kwanza Coalition held its parliamentary group meeting on 16th and 17th September at Sawela Lodge in Naivasha and elected the following persons as the chief whip and deputy chief whip. The Honorable Silvanos Osoro Onyengo, MP, member for South Mugirango, chief whip, and the Honorable Naomi Jilo Wago, MP, member for Marsabit County, as the deputy chief whip. Similarly, honorable members, the member for Kikuyu constituency also attached an excerpt of the minutes of the parliamentary group meeting and a list of members who attended the meeting, duly signed by the attendees. In his letter to me, the member for Kikuyu constituency indicated that he was discharging his role under Standing Order 20A3A, which requires the name of the person designated as the majority party whip and majority party deputy whip to be communicated to the Speaker by the leader of the majority party. Honorable members, on 22nd September 2022, I also received a letter dated 21st September 2022 from the Honorable Jeremiah Ngayu Kioni, identifying the following members as the leadership of the Jubilee Party parliamentary group in the House. The Honorable Shurie Abd Omar MP, member from Balambala, as the leader. The Honorable Samuel Arama MP, member for Nakuru Town West, as the whip. The Honorable Sarah Korere MP, member for Laikipia North, as deputy whip. And the Honorable Adan Kainan MP, member for Elders, as secretary. Can the members at the bar take their seats? Honorable members, order. The distinguished immediate former member for Ndarakwa constituent signs over Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, and in the letter, he also notes that Jubilee Party remains a member of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. Honorable members, ordinarily and in keeping with the requirement of Standing Order 19A14 and 20A5, following receipt of the names and attendant accompanying documentation, as your Speaker, I'm supposed to convey the names of the leadership of the majority party and that of the minority party and the whips of any parliamentary party in the House to the assembled House. If the House is not sitting, the standing orders require me to notify members in the usual manner of Speaker's notification to all members. Honorable members, in this action, it is this action that subsequently sets in motion the next steps. In this case, the clerk would write to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, copying the respective whips, asking for the names of the 9 members nominated to sit in the House Business Committee under Standing Order 17(1)F. Thereafter, the clerk would publish the names in the order paper for approval by the House at its first sitting session, which would have been today. Honorable members, faced with these conflicting correspondences, you will agree with me that it is impossible for me and the clerk to discharge those requirements of the standing orders at this moment. You will also agree with me that from the foregoing, 3 pertinent questions arise at this moment. These are: 1, who is the bona fide leader of the majority party and who is the bona fide leader of the minority party in this House? 2, in absence of a House Business Committee, what business is to be transacted by this House for the next few days before the question of the leadership of the majority and the minority party is determined? 3, before the question of leadership of the majority and the minority party is determined, who is to move the business in the House and whose moving is ordinarily reserved for the party leaders? With respect to the first question, honorable members, I will reserve the rest of today's sitting to allow the House to address me on this matter so that I can make a reasoned retreat and ruling. So I can retreat to make a reasoned ruling and guidance to the House. Honorable members, with respect to the second question on what business to be transacted by this House for the next few days, before the question of the leadership of the majority and the minority parties determined, allow me to guide you as follows. First, honorable members, as you are aware, Standing Order 30 hours of meeting provides that the House shall meet on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. for the afternoon sitting, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for the morning sitting, and 2:30 p.m. for the afternoon sitting, and Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. for the afternoon sittings. It is therefore clear that with or without any scheduled business, the House must sit on the prescribed days and times. Indeed, honorable members, Standing Order 30 dictates that tomorrow the House shall sit in the morning from 9:30 a.m. and in the afternoon commencing at 2:30. That is mandatory, and your Speaker has no authority to stop commencement of a sitting of the House unless in very exceptional circumstances which are not obtaining here. Indeed, as your Speaker, I have constitutional obligation to ensure continuity of the business of this House at all times. The only authority granted to the Speaker with respect to the time of sitting is to vary the time of commencement or adjournment of the sittings, but only for the convenience of the House. Honorable members, further, the Standing Order 38 providing for the preparation and circulation of the order paper obligates the clerk to prepare an order paper indicating the business to be transacted by the House. In this regard, it's also mandatory that before every sitting of the House, there should be an order paper which should be published on the parliamentary website and made available to members at least 12 hours before the House meets. It is for this reason that I authorize the clerk to publish the order paper that is before you this afternoon, and which she also published on the website during the weekend. Honorable members, if you look at the order paper, the business listed there is procedural motions, and for the benefit of new members, a procedural motion is one that concerns the manner or time of consideration of a matter before the House. Procedural motions include motions on limitation of debate, where members are allocated a specific period of time within which they may speak on a matter before the House, and a motion for exemption of business from specified provisions of the standing orders. Honorable members, Standing Order 24.5 provides that whenever the President delivers an address, a member may, as soon as practicable thereafter, lay the address on the table of the House. Standing Order 24.6 further provides that a member may give notice of motion that the thanks of the House be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of the President. But debate on the motion shall not exceed 4 sitting days. What is contemplated under Standing Order 24.6 is that the debate on the speech of the President shall not be interrupted by a dilatory motion. Honorable members, by practice of our Parliament, debate on the President's address is accorded priority before any other business, save for procedural motions. It therefore naturally follows that the business that is to be transacted by the House for the next 4 sittings is debate on the President's address. This therefore settles the second question. Honorable members, allow me to also note that the debate on the speech of the President ordinarily accords first-time members the solemn opportunity to make their maiden speech in the House. This opportunity for new members, in my view, should not be curtailed by the question of the majority and minority leadership and the composition of the House Business Committee. However, honorable members, it's worth noting that the continuity of the business of the House will not and should not in any way be seen to prejudice the determination of the question of the leadership of the majority and minority parties in the House. In this regard, since there is no objection as to who the Deputy Speaker is, I will exercise my powers under Standing Order number 1 and authorize the Deputy Speaker to move certain business as follows. At Order number 5, I will allow the Deputy Speaker to lay certain papers in the House which have a statutory deadline and which the law requires that they must be laid in the House when it first sits, which is today. 2, at Order number 6, I will allow the Deputy Speaker to give notice of motion on the noting of the President's address. 3, at order number 8, I will allow the Deputy Speaker to move the procedural motion on limitation of debate on the President's address under Standing Order 97. Moving of the rest of the 10 procedural motions will stand stayed until a later time. And 4, tomorrow morning at order number 8, I will also allow the Deputy Speaker to move the business under Standing Order 24-6, being the motion on debate on the President's address. This shall give honorable members an opportunity to debate the President's address for 4 sitting days, starting tomorrow morning, Wednesday, 5th October 2022, until Tuesday, 11th October 2022. Honorable members, this now settles the third and last question. The House is accordingly guided, and may I now ask the clerk to read the next orders. After the House concludes with order number 8, I'll allow the honorable members to address me on the question of majority and minority party leadership. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. 1. Speech by His Excellency the President, delivered on Thursday, September 29th, the year 2022. 2. Legal notice number 65 of 2022 relating to the capital markets whistleblower regulations of the year 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the National Treasury and Planning. 3. Legal notice number 86 of 2022 relating to the Legal Aid General Regulations 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Attorney General. 4. Legal notice number 87 of 2022 relating to the Legal Aid Code of Conduct for Accredited Legal Aid Providers Regulations 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Attorney General. 5. Legal notice number 94 of 2022 relating to the Suppliers Practitioners Management Council Election Regulations 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the National Treasury and Planning. Number 6, legal notice number 95 of 2022 relating to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. I'll repeat that. Number 6, legal notice number 95 of 22 relating to the Pharmacy and Poisons Conduct of Clinical Trials Regulations 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Health. 7, legal notice number 96 of 2022 relating to the Pharmacy and Poisons, Pharmacovigilance and Post-Market Surveillance Rules of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Health. 8, legal notice number 97 of 2022 relating to the Pharmacy and Poison Transportation of Pharmaceuticals Rules of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Health. Legal notice 9, legal notice number 98 of 2022 relating to the Pharmacy and Poisons Amendment Rules of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Health. 10, legal notice number 99 of 2022 relating to the Pharmacy and Poisons Pharmaceutical Waste Management Rules of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Health. 11, legal notice number 100 of 2022 relating to the pharmacy and poisons, registration of health products and technologies rules of 2022, and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Health. 12, legal notice number 101 of 2022 relating to crops, MIRA regulations of 2022, and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development, and Public Works. 13, legal notice number 102 of 2022 relating to the coffee general amendment regulations of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development, and Public Works. 14, notice number 120 of 2022 relating to the National Transport Safety Authority, transport network companies, owners, drivers, and passengers regulations from the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development, and Public Works. 15, legal notice number 141 of 2022 relating to the Kenya Roads Board General Rules of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development. 16, legal notice number 146 of 2022 relating to the Accountants Quality Review Assurance Regulations and of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the National Treasury and Planning. 17, legal notice number 147 of 2022 relating to the Accountants Standard of Professionals and Practice and Ethical Conduct Regulations and the explanatory memorandum for the National Treasury and Planning. 18, legal notice number 152 of 2022 relating to the Accountants Examination Rules of 2022 and the explanatory memorandum from the National Treasury and Planning. And finally, number 19, legal notice number 153 of 2022 relating to the Accountants Regulations 2022 and an explanatory memorandum from the National Treasury and Planning.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honorable members, order.
Speaker, I want you to give us direction. It looks like most of these legal notice are of the previous administration.
Order, Honorable Tuale. You're jumping the gun. I have a communication on this. You can intervene after my communication. Honorable members, I have a short communication on the statutory instruments submitted between 4th June 2022 and 4th October 2022. Honorable members, as you may have noticed this afternoon, in fact a few minutes ago, the Deputy Speaker has laid before the House 18 sets of statutory instruments. The statutory instruments, commonly referred to as regulations, were submitted during the Sindie recess of the 12th Parliament, while others were submitted just after the inauguration of the 13th Parliament. Honorable members, the Statutory Instruments Act number 23 of 2013 provides that upon receipt of such statutory instruments, they should be tabled in Parliament within 7 days, or if the House is not sitting, as soon as possible when the House next sits. In this regard, honorable members, it is for this reason that I have allowed the Deputy Speaker to lay the 18 sets of regulations this afternoon. The consideration of the different regulations will now await the establishment of the Committee on Delegated Legislation. The committee should consider them within 28 sitting days thereafter. Honorable members, on a similar note, by way of letter dated 9th September 2022, the Honorable the Attorney General brought to the attention of all state departments and agencies the provisions of Section 21 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013. The effect of this provision is that A, There is a general revocation of statutory instruments 10 years after their making, unless they are repealed or a regulation is made exempting them from expiry. Subject to this provision, all statutory legislations enacted prior to the commencement of the Act stand to be revoked and are thus null and void as from 25th January 2023. B, an extension of the statutory instruments may be made for 12 months, subject to the consultation between the respective Cabinet Secretary and relevant parliamentary committee. Honorable members, it will be recalled that during passage of the Finance Act 2022 in June this year, this House extended the period of automatic revocation of regulations made under the laws relating to tax matters. This includes regulations made under the following statutes. 1, the Income Tax Cap 470. 2, the Stamp Duty Act Cap 480. 3, the Value Added Tax number 35 of 2013. 4, the Tax Appeals Tribunal Act number 40 of 2013. 5, the Excise Duty Act number 23 of 2015. And 6, the Tax Procedures Act number 29 of 2015. Honorable members, it is therefore expected that the state departments and agencies will approach the committee upon its establishment to consider whether similar treatment may be accorded to the rest of the imbued regulations to avoid any form of legislative crisis in the country. Honorable members, what this means is that the entry of the Committee on Delegated Legislation is already full even before it's established. The House is now accordingly informed and guided. Honorable Duale, does that solve your issue?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. We'll now go back to the order. Yes.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give a notice of the following motion: that the thanks of the House be recorded for the exposition of the public policy contained in the address of the President delivered on Thursday, September 29, 2022.
Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, procedural motion, limitation of debate on the address by the President.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the following motion: that noting the Standing Order 24(6) provides that the debate on the motion on the address by the President shall be limited to not more than 4 sittings, and pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97(1), this House orders that the debate on the motion on the address by His Excellency the President under Article 132(1)(a) of the Constitution, delivered on the 29th of September 2022 on the opening of Parliament, shall be limited as follows: no more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying. 2, no more than 15 for the designated party leaders. And 3, no more than 10 minutes for the other members speaking. And 4, at least 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Honorable Speaker, in moving the motion, permit me to inform the House, for the benefit of the newly elected members, that parliamentary debates are oral exchanges of opinions intended to facilitate the House in plenary to arrive at a collective decision-making on certain issues. Debates can take place on special occasions, such as opening speeches or at different stages of the examination of proposed legislation. Debates provide opportunities for us as members to discuss government policies, proposed laws, deliberate on current issues. Honorable Speaker, sir, debates allow members of Parliament to consider and address the concerns and interests of their constituents. Members can also speak about issues brought to their attention by the public. Debates are designed to enable the House reach an informed decision on any subject matter. Honorable Speaker, sir, with this understanding, debates are a critical mechanism for us members in this House. Indeed, each member ought to have an opportunity to debate and address issues affecting the citizenry. Honorable Speaker, sir, the object of this procedural motion is to limit debate by allocating the mover 20 minutes to move, 15 minutes for our designated leaders, and at least 10 minutes to any member speaking. This move, honorable members, will see us save time and accord more members an opportunity to make their contributions on the President's speech. In addition, approving this motion will also allow more newly elected members to make their maiden speeches as they contribute to the motion on the floor. Further, Honorable Speaker, when you calculate the time allocated for this motion, it totals to 1,020 minutes. If each member speaking contributes for 10 minutes, you will notice that less than 102 members will have contributed to this motion. I will therefore be seeking for extension of the sitting of time through this procedural motion to afford more members time to debate the motion. Honorable Speaker, sir, it is against this backdrop that I urge members to support this motion to enable the House debate the President's speech and to allow more members to make their contributions on the address of the President within the 4 sittings as envisaged in Understanding Order 24-6. Honorable Speaker, I now beg to move and request the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, member for Kitui Central, to second this motion.
Who is seconding? Makali Mulu. Yeah. The Honorable Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to second this important motion. But before I do that, Honorable Speaker, just to, first of all, quote your own statement. Since there is no doubt who the MP for Kitui Central is, I think I want to take this opportunity to thank my people before I second this motion. Because this is the first time I'm getting the opportunity to speak in the 13th Parliament. These Kitui Central people, Honorable Speaker, are very special. They have given me a 3rd term, which is not easy, and I must thank them. Honorable Speaker, this motion is very important, and the reason I'm seconding it, Honorable Speaker, is because it will give the House the opportunity to look at the proposed policies by the new government, to look at the proposed legal frameworks, because they say they'll be coming to this Parliament with some amendment to the law, and also it gives the new members an opportunity to make the amended speech, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the reason why I even support more the issue of the 10 minutes is because the new members will have time to say thank you to the people who voted for them. It was indeed to win this election, Honorable Speaker. And as they are aware, Honorable Speaker, when you are making your amended speech, you are not interrupted by anybody. So you take your 10 minutes and say what you want to say. But even as you do that, Honorable Speaker, it will be important that they remember that it will be debating and raised by the President. Honorable Speaker, even though this address was very short by all standards, But I think, Honorable Speaker, it has a lot of important policy statements and a lot of legal framework which is required for the President to implement some of the things he has promised Kenyans. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Speaker, that as a House, we need to limit debate to the allowed timelines in terms of minutes, Honorable Speaker. And by doing that, we'll have more members debating to this motion. But, Honorable Speaker, even as we say that, I want to urge honorable members to take time and read through the statement itself. Because, Honorable Speaker, it will not make a lot of sense if we all come here and we are talking before reading into required details the President's address, Honorable Speaker. I was able to listen to the speech, but I will take a lot of time. And I want really to encourage my colleagues in the Azimio coalition, because our work is to make sure that we really objectively analyze the policies.
Honorable Makali. Yes, Honorable Bukose. Give Honorable Bukose the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know I'm standing on point of order on anticipation of debate. The Honorable Makali Mulu is already debating. It's not relevant to what he was supposed to second. He's already debating a motion that is not yet before the House. So I think he should stick with the relevance. Yeah.
Honorable Makali.
Huh?
You are seconding a motion as to whether the time set out, the time we should abide by.
Honorable Speaker, I think I've been in this House long enough to know really what needs to be done to a motion like this. What we are saying is debate time will come, but there is no way you expect me just to second a motion by saying I second. You know, Honorable Bukose, Honorable Speaker, is known for saying put the question. And I want to urge the House that this 13th Parliament, Honorable Speaker, under your guidance, must be a parliament of debate. And the man to watch mostly, Honorable Speaker, is Honorable Bukose, because he's among the guys who really don't want people to debate. But with those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second the motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I'll now propose the question that noting that Standing Order 24.6 provides that debate on a motion on the address by the President shall be limited to not more than 4 sitting days, and pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97.1, this House orders that the debate on the motion on the address by HE the President under Article 132.1a of the Constitution delivered on 29 September 2022, opening of a new parliament, shall be limited as follows: no more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in reply, no more than 15 minutes for the designated party leaders, no more than 10 minutes for any other member speaking, and at least 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Is that is that the mood in the House? Is that the mood of the House? Honorable members, there being no interest in debating this procedural motion, I'll now put the question. That noting that the Standing Order 24.6 provides that debate on a motion on the address by the President shall be limited to not more than 4 sitting days, and pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97.1, this House orders that debate on the motion on the address by His Excellency the President under Article 132.1a of the Constitution delivered on 29 September 2022, opening of a new parliament, shall be limited as follows: no more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, no more than 15 minutes for the designated party leaders, no more than 10 minutes for any other member speaking, and at least 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. As members of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Order, honorable members. Next order. We go back. Order, honorable members. As I communicated earlier, we have an issue in the House on the leadership and the contested communications before the Speaker. Before we make a determination and direction, I want to give the House the remainder of the time this afternoon to ventilate on this matter. I urge you to debate with decorum. This House is not a political rally. We don't want to use this as a platform to engage in trivia and to engage in parochial politics. The matter as to who is the majority and minority must be grounded in our standing orders, in the law, in the Constitution, and in the facts. So I want to urge honorable members to give each other time to speak without unnecessary interruptions. I also want to urge those speaking to avoid unhelpful provocations of situations that can create unnecessary exchanges, because what we want is to have a House guided and led by our own standing orders, the law, and the Constitution. So I'll invite members to contribute to this debate. I'll give the first opportunity to the protagonists. That is the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah and Opiyo Wandayi. The rest I will then give to their whips, who are also protagonists, and then open debate to the rest of the House. I will start with the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, as you have clearly guided, Honorable Speaker, let me also begin to give my take on this issue of the Leader of Majority. First, Honorable Speaker, by thanking members of my coalition, Kenya Kwanza, who voted for me and elected to have me as their Leader of Majority. Honorable Speaker, let me also take the opportunity to thank the great people of Kikuyu who have afforded me a third opportunity to continue serving them as their Member of Parliament, Kikuyu, and as I dedicate my time also to serve this House as the Leader of Majority designate from Kenya Kwanza. Honorable Speaker, the question that you are being asked to make an informed decision on.
Honorable Ichung'wah, there's a point of order. Yes, the Honorable John Badi.
Mr. Speaker, I am alive to the fact that we have very many new members, but we need to start training them from day one. The honorable member, I'm yet to learn his name, has twice crossed the floor, going the other side and coming back without going to the bar. I hope in terms of orientation, we want to help you next time. You must go to the bar and then you go to the other side. So, Mr. Speaker.
For our new colleagues in the House, it is out of order to walk across the aisle. If you want to cross the floor to talk to your colleagues across, you go up to the bar, you bow, and then you walk across. And for avoidance of doubt on the debate, the Honorable Ichung'wah and those who will speak, if I see a lot of interest already on the screen, so that you organize your thoughts properly, I'll give you 10 minutes. I'll give you 15 minutes, I'll give Wandayi 15 minutes, and the rest of the members will start off with about 10 minutes. If the interest continues persisting, I'll reduce it to 5.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I'll endeavor to do so in the 15 minutes. And Honorable Speaker was saying the question that you're being called upon to make a decision on, Honorable Speaker, is well grounded in our Constitution, in Article 108 of our Constitution, Honorable Speaker, that establishes the office of the Leader of Majority, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, the same, Honorable Speaker, is replicated in Standing Order number 19 of our standing orders. Honorable Speaker, if you allow me to quote from the Constitution tells us there shall be a leader of the majority party and a leader of the minority party. 2, the leader of the majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties. Honorable Speaker, it then goes ahead to designate who will be the leader of the minority party as the leader of the second largest party or coalition of political parties. Honorable Speaker, indeed, the question that is before you and before this House, Honorable Speaker, is to simply determine which is the largest coalition of political parties or the largest political party. And that party, Honorable Speaker, must be a parliamentary political party, as is stipulated, I think, in Standing Order 20A of our own standing orders, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you have said in your communication that you have received letters, I think a letter dated the 21st or 19th of September from the Honorable Junet Mohammed on the 21st of September, Honorable Speaker, who wrote on behalf of the Azimio One Kenya Coalition Political Party. Honorable Speaker, it is worth noting that as you communicated, you also indicated the Honorable Soro and myself did write to you, communicating the decision of the Kenya Kwanza coalition and who we had elected as leaders of our coalition. Honorable Speaker, you will note from your own communication, whereas we did attach our minutes stating the place, time, and attendees of our parliamentary group meeting, the letter by the Honorable Junet Mohammed has neither the place of that meeting, it has neither the time or the attendees of that meeting. And it is important, Honorable Speaker, because we are a house of procedures, it is important that such letters do indicate who were the attendees, because the questions that are before you, Honorable Speaker, is on the constitution of either the Kenya Kwanza coalition of political parties in this house as parliamentary political parties, or if Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party exists as a coalition of political parties, Honorable Speaker. And it is my humble submission, Honorable Speaker, that those of us who were in this house in the last parliament, in the 13th parliament, Honorable Speaker, you in the 12th parliament, Honorable Speaker, you will remember the animated debate that we had as we amended the Political Parties Act through the Political Parties Amendment Bill, Honorable Speaker. A very chaotic debate, Honorable Speaker, and I remember many of us vehemently opposed many of the amendments that were proposed. Top among those amendments was the creation of an amorphous thing, a mongrel sort of thing that was called the coalition political party. Honorable Speaker, what you are being asked today to decide on is anchored in the amendments that we did in the 12th Parliament to our political parties. And the chaos you witness in this House today in terms of management of our political parties, Honorable Speaker, emanates from the passage of the amendments to that political party's amendment bill in the last Parliament, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you allow me, the particular amendments, Honorable Speaker, created what certain definitions, and Honorable Speaker, if you read Article 10, or Clause 10 of Section 10 of the bill, it defines what a coalition political party is. Honorable Speaker, it defines what a political party is. And a political party, Honorable Speaker, is said to be, Honorable Speaker, that...
Yes, Honorable Member. Please help me by saying your name and constituency.
And the standing order is standing order.
And the standing order that has been violated. You have the mic,
Thank you
Honorable
very
Member.
much, Honorable Speaker. My name is Honorable Karoli Omondi from Suba South.
Yes.
It's quite unfortunate that I begin my statement in this House by raising a point of order, understanding order 2B. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, for this House to debate a matter that should have been determined by the clerk of the House by simply writing a letter to the registrar of political parties to determine the relative majorities of the parties in this House? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Karoli Omondi, that is a matter that is way behind us. I've given direction, and you are under no legal authority to challenge what the Speaker has directed. I also want to encourage members that because of the limited time, and I want to assure you of the capacity and the ability to listen and to determine this matter. Let's give members who are debating some silence listening so that I can hear them properly and bring you back a determination. So unless it's a really serious breach of the standing orders, let's restrain ourselves from raising unhelpful points of order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that guidance. And Honorable Speaker, I was at the point where I was saying that the current mess that we are witnessing, Honorable Speaker, on this issue is occasioned by the definitions of the words coalition and coalition political party. And Honorable Speaker, for clarity, I wanted to read the definitions as they exist in the Act. That a coalition means an alliance of two or more political parties formed for the purpose of pursuing a common goal and is governed by a written agreement deposited with the registrar. Honorable Speaker, it is worthwhile to note that Kenya Kwanza coalition is a coalition pursuant to that definition. And therefore, it is a coalition of political parties that are governed by a written agreement, Honorable Speaker, which I shall be tabling. We do have a number of coalition agreements that are agreed upon that were signed, Honorable Speaker, and I'll be tabling the coalition agreement between Kenya Kwanza, the parties UDA, the founding parties UDA, ANC, Ford Kenya, Honorable Speaker, and further agreements with the Umoja na Maendeleo Party. I will also be tabling a coalition agreement between Kenya Kwanza and Tujibebe wa Kenya Party, a further agreement with the Service Party of Kenya, another agreement, Honorable Speaker, with the Pamoja Alliance, Pamoja African Alliance, PA, a further agreement, Honorable Speaker, with the Maendeleo Chap Party. I shall also be tabling, Honorable Speaker, for your ease of perusal, an agreement between the founding parties of Kenya Kwanza and the Farmers Party, another one with the Economic Freedom Party, Honorable Speaker, another one with the Devolution Party of Kenya, one with the Democratic Party of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, the Communist Party of Kenya and Kenya Kwanza Alliance founding parties, Chama cha Kazi, Honorable Speaker, the Democratic Party of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. I will also table one from the National Agenda Party of Kenya, the Grand Dream Development Party, led by our friend and colleague, the Honorable Fabian Muli, and the coalition, post-election coalition agreement between GDDP, post-election, Honorable Speaker, between GDDP and Kenya Kwanza, a post-election coalition agreement between the United Democratic Movement, UDM, and Kenya Kwanza, a post-election coalition agreement between MDG, the Movement for Democracy and Growth, led by our brother and colleague, the Honorable David Ochieng. Honorable Speaker, all these coalitions are to bear witness, Honorable Speaker, that indeed Kenya Kwanza is a coalition of political parties as per the definition of the Act, Honorable Speaker. The second definition, Honorable Speaker, is one of a coalition political party. And the Act tells us that this means a coalition registered by the registrar as a political party. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I would beg, Honorable Speaker, and I want to challenge my colleague, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, and the Honorable Opio Wandai, who you called my protagonist, but is actually my very good friend, Honorable Speaker. They are here contending to be leading the majority. Honorable Speaker, the question of determining a majority is very easy, because it's just a question of calculating the numbers of parliamentary political parties. And the definition of a parliamentary political party is in this standing order number 20. Honorable Speaker, we must then ask ourselves the question, is the Azimio One Kenya Alliance Coalition political party a party? Is it a parliamentary political party? And the straight answer, Honorable Speaker, is that Azimio One Kenya Coalition party does not exist as a parliamentary political party. Honorable Speaker, but that does not mean that the constituent parties that came together to form Azimio One Kenya Alliance political party are not parties in their own right. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, with all due respect to the other parties, and indeed, Honorable Speaker, you have also in your communication alluded to the fact that Jubilee Party, my former party, has also written to you communicating their leadership in this House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what does that tell you? That Jubilee Party appreciates that Azimio One Kenya Coalition political party does not exist in this House, either as a parliamentary political party or as a coalition of political parties, as per the definition in Article 108 and Standing Order number 19, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, that then would mean that ODM, and I want to believe besides KANU, ODM is the oldest political party in this country, with slightly above 80 members of parliament, is then the second largest political party after the Kenya Kwanza coalition of political parties, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, and I don't say this to belittle all the other partners in Azimio One Kenya Alliance, Honorable Speaker, but that is what we created in the mess that was the political parties amendment bill that was debated in this House, Honorable Speaker, over the Christmas recess in December of 2021 and completed in January of this year, Honorable Speaker. I remember, Honorable Speaker, standing in my place somewhere behind here, reminding our colleagues that this law that you have just passed will punish you more than it will ever punish me or those of us that were then called the Tanga or UDA Brigade, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, chickens have come home to roost. Nobody is being punished, but we are paying for that acrimonious debate and a law that was procured in this assembly in a manner that we should never, ever engage in procuring or in legislating. We are a house that legislates through consultation. We never consulted each other as we passed that law, Honorable Speaker. And it is sad. And I pray, Honorable Speaker, that this 13th Assembly will not take the route and will never take the route that the 12th Assembly took. We must be a house that consults. I am glad, Honorable Speaker, that we sit here with my brother, Honorable Pio Wandai, and my brother, Honorable Jonet, as colleagues in one house, listening to each other and debating, because this is a house of debate, Honorable Speaker. And we must gain the respect and the dignity that we are accorded by the Kenyan people who have elected us by coming to this house, listening to each other and debating. Honorable Speaker, I want to submit, Honorable Speaker, that besides the agreements, Honorable Speaker, that we are tabling, when I say that Azimio One Kenya Alliance, One Kenya Coalition Party, is not a parliamentary political party, it is because the definition as contained in our standing orders stipulates that you must have at least 5% of the members of the National Assembly to be a parliamentary political party. Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party has not a single member of parliament. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, in a case that was filed by Dhuranira and 4 others versus the Attorney General and 2 others, including the Register of Political Parties and 3 others as interested parties, Honorable Speaker, the High Court allowed the constituent parties in Azimio 1 Kenya to field individual party candidates, and that is what they did. That is why we have 26 parties represented in this House, including ODM, Jubilee, Wiper, UDA, ANC, Ford Kenya, and all our other parties. Honorable Speaker, by Gazette notice that was published on the 1st of July 2022, Honorable Speaker, this is the schedule that published all the people who are nominated to run for either president or parliamentary seats. Honorable Speaker, I'll be tabling this Gazette notice. There was only one candidate who ran for the office of President of Kenya, the Honorable Odinga Raila Karua Martha Wangari, who ran as a Azimio 1, La Umoja 1 Kenya Coalition Party candidates with the emblem and symbols of the Azimio 1 Kenya political party. That party has no representation in this House. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we only need to ask ourselves if Azimio 1 Kenya Alliance political party is not represented in this House, and the leader of that alliance is not in this House, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, it is only natural that the coalition with the largest number of members in this House, being the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, naturally, the leader of majority and the majority party then is the leader that leads that coalition. And that is yours faithfully, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we must also ask ourselves, because I have seen it in the media, Honorable Speaker, and without even quoting, Honorable Speaker, you're also being asked to rule on issues that touch on individual and corporate political rights, because parties belong to people, they are managed by people, and they harbor people. And those people and those parties as corporate entities enjoy political rights in line with Article 38 of our Constitution, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, you do know that Article 36 of our Constitution, Honorable Speaker, also guarantees us certain rights that are not, that cannot be taken away, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, you must ask yourself, Honorable Speaker, and we must ask ourselves, because the contention, Honorable Speaker, relates to a few of us, especially those members who belong to UDM who are sitting here, members who belong to MDG, like my brother David Ochieng, who is sitting here, members who belong to the Maendeleo Chapter, members who belong to the Pamoja African Alliance, PA, and they're in this House, Honorable Speaker. Can you, as Speaker, because that is a question we are asking you to make a determination on, can you, as Speaker, ignore their fundamental right to the freedom to association, to be able to associate or coalesce with anybody that they want to coalesce with, as individuals and as political parties? Can that right be taken away, Honorable Speaker, by Clause 22 of the Azimio Agreement? And Honorable Speaker, I will dare challenge my brothers in the Azimio 1 Kenya Coalition Party. I have tabled coalition agreements between parties that assented to the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. I dare you, table the Azimio 1 Kenya Coalition Party agreements that are signed by any of these political parties. And I would dare you to table that agreement, because it is also in contention, Honorable Speaker, as to how those agreements were procured, Honorable Speaker. We have heard harrowing stories of how people were coerced under the last regime to sign blank pieces of paper with just your party name on a dotted line on one piece of paper, Honorable Speaker, not knowing what you are signing for, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I know you have been a senior member of the legal profession, and I do not want to pretend to be one. But at least I did study a little bit of the law of contract as I started for my CPA with the Honorable John Buddy, although I was slightly ahead of him. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable John Buddy might be slightly older than me, but I was slightly ahead of him in the profession. I qualified as a CPA when I was in my first year at the University of Nairobi. Honorable Speaker, I was saying in the law of contract, you know any agreement that is obtained either under duress or with the concealment of material facts, that agreement cannot stand in law.
Therefore, our brothers in the One Kenya coalition, I am sorry, and I am sorry to you, and I'm sorry to the Kenyan people, because we created this mess right on this floor. And that is why I appeal, as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, to our colleagues. This issue, Honorable Speaker, we are confident that you'll be able to make a ruling on it, Honorable Speaker. But as we begin this 13th assembly, I dare say we must never get back to where we got to in the 12th Parliament, Honorable Speaker. We never consulted each other as we made a mess out of the political parties that govern and guide the growth of our democracy. This particular law, as was passed, Honorable Speaker, I said then that it would not only punish us and punish those who are vehemently supporting it, and punish you more than it would punish those who are vehemently opposing it, but it was a dangerous law for the governance of our country and the growth of our democracy, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit, Honorable Speaker, that my colleagues in the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, Honorable Speaker, do know they do not have the numbers. They know the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, former member of Ndaragwa, as Secretary General of Jubilee, has written to you, Honorable Speaker, as the Secretary General of Jubilee, communicating their leadership in this House. They do know, Honorable Speaker, that the Azimio One Kenya coalition party does not exist in this House. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, I must commend ODM because they have been magnanimous to share positions with Jubilee and even with their brothers in Wiper. I must commend ODM as the oldest political party, because ODM is the second largest political party, and that ought to be the leader, the party in the minority, and the Honorable Pio Andai ought to be the leader of minority leading the ODM brigade in this House. And the Honorable Junet can whip the ODM members.
Your time is up.
Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Andai.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And this being my first time to speak in the 13th Parliament, Mr. Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to first and foremost congratulate you on your election as the Speaker of the 13th National Assembly. And also to congratulate my colleagues who have made it to this House this time round. Mr. Speaker, I am indeed pleased to note that you have repeatedly said since your election that you will be the Speaker of the whole House, in spite, of course, of the fact that my coalition did have a candidate against you. Mr. Speaker, I also recognize that you have got immense experience as a parliamentarian, and you are also a distinguished legal practitioner, spanning very many years. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you that when I was growing up, I came to learn that you, as a young lawyer then, young advocate, was bold enough to come out and defend some of the victims of the 1982 coup attempt. That goes to say, really, the kind of person you are. And therefore, this House, I believe, stands to benefit immensely from your wise counsel and your very rich experience. But coming back to the issue at hand, Mr. Speaker, I want us to take note of the fact that the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya 2010 makes it at Article 3, Sub-Article 1, an obligation for every single person to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. That responsibility, that obligation is even more so pertinent for some of us who have taken oath of office to defend that constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been listening very keenly to my friend and compatriot, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. But let me take you to Article 259 of the Constitution. Article 259 of the Constitution requires that as we interpret the Constitution, we do so in a manner that promotes its purposes. Allow me to just take you through it. That this Constitution shall be interpreted in a manner that, among others, promotes its purposes, values, and principles, and also in a manner that contributes to good governance. What I mean to say, Mr. Speaker, is that you need to undertake a holistic reading of the Constitution for you to arrive at any particular conclusion or determination. Selective reading of the Constitution, or any law for that matter, really, may not be helpful in examining a matter of significance such as the one that we are faced with this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, Article 108 has been spoken to by my colleague, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. And there's no doubt, indeed, that under Article 108, both Part 1 and 2, the leader of majority party shall be the person who is the leader of the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties. Mr. Speaker, standing orders of the National Assembly. In fact, those of us who are privileged to be in this House in the 12th Parliament will recall that we did make some amendments towards the end of that House. So, Speaker, the Standing Order number 1 provides, and I want to read, that in all cases where matters are not expressly provided for by these standing orders or by the orders of the House, any procedural question shall be decided by the Speaker. But it goes on to say at Part 2, and this is very important, that the decisions made in paragraph 1 shall be based on the Constitution of Kenya, statute law, and I dare say in this case, the Political Parties Act of 2011, as amended severally, including the amendment of 2022. Statute law and usages, forms, precedents, customs, procedures, traditions, and practices of the Parliament of Kenya and other jurisdictions to the extent that these are applicable to Kenya. Mr. Speaker, we have come to a point where we seem to be asking you to make a decision, to make a determination on a matter that is so well provided for, so expressly provided for by not only the Constitution, the Political Parties Act, but also by our own standing orders. And let me take you to standing order number 2B. Yes, standing order number 2B, Mr. Speaker. And I will read for avoidance of doubt. Clerk to obtain coalition agreements. That is the title or the subtitle of that particular standing order. And members, listen carefully. It says, at 2B, that the clerk shall obtain from the registrar of political parties a certified copy of any coalition agreement entered into by the two or more parties in the National Assembly for purposes of ascertaining the relative majorities in the House and facilitating the transaction of the business of the House. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to this particular standing order, I dare say, the acting clerk of the National Assembly, and I must commend her for her diligence, the acting clerk of the National Assembly on the 2nd of September 2022 did write to the registrar of political parties seeking this information. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, the registrar duly responded to her letter on the 7th of September 2022. The registrar of political parties wrote to the clerk of the National Assembly. And I want to read excerpts of that letter. Mr. Speaker, if I could be allowed to continue.
Mr. Speaker, I don't want to correct my former chairman of Public Accounts Committee, but before he leaves Standing Order 2B, Speaker, just like Honorable Chungwa, can he first table the Azimio agreement as provided and certified by the registrar of political parties?
Can I continue?
Yes. Give him the mic.
So, Speaker, because, why am I saying so? Speaker, Standing Order 2B, as correctly read by the Honorable Opio Wandai, is very specific. It says the clerk of the National Assembly will write to the registrar of political parties, Madam Ann Nderitu, asking the National Assembly to be provided with. So, Mr. Speaker, the basis of our argument is not about the letter. It's about the coalition agreement. We have seen Kenya Kwanza. Can we get the one for? Can we get the one for Azimio?
Honorable members, that is a line of argument that you can pursue, and I'll give you an opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for protecting me from my friend and senior in the House, Honorable Dwale. In the course of my submissions, I will be educating him a little bit on matters law. On matters law. Mr. Speaker, I was saying that on the 7th of September, the registrar of political parties did write back to the clerk of the National Assembly. And she said, request for information on coalition agreements. Request for information on coalition agreements. Reference is made to the above subject matter, and your letter dated 2nd September 2022, whose content is duly noted. Pursuant to Section 10 of the Political Parties Act 2011, as read together with Regulation 21 of the Political Parties Registration Regulations 2019, and in line with your request, the constituent political parties of coalitions and effective dates are as listed below. 1, coalition name, Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition Party. Listen, just listen. Constituent parties, Jubilee, ODM, Wiper, KANU, NAC. You can say no, but I'm telling you what is, what is here. Yes. You will continue shouting no, but that won't make a difference. KANU, NAC Kenya, Muungano Party, Maendeleo Chap Chap, Democratic Action Party, Devolution Empowerment Party, UPIA, UDM. Just continue shouting UDM. I mean, no. UPA, PA, KUP, UDP, MDG, MDG, KRP, Chama cha Uzalendo, Party for Peace and Democracy, National Liberal Party, People's Trust Party, Ubuntu People's Forum, PNU, Labour Party of Kenya, Party for Growth and Prosperity. Those are 26. Those are 26 political parties that had signed a coalition agreement under the umbrella of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party on the 21st April 2022. Of course, it goes on to list those parties under the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, which I want to read. Okay, I can read, yeah. UDA, ANC, Ford Kenya, CCK, Communist, Service Party, Tujibebe, Farmers Party, Devolution Party, EFP, Umoja, Mandeleo, that had signed an agreement with Kenya Kwanza on 3rd June 2022. There are other parties listed here. Listen carefully, members. As having signed a coalition agreement under Kenya Kwanza post-election. That is on the 5th of September 2022. These are DP, National Agenda Party, Grand Dream Development Party, Chama cha Mashinani. Then it goes on. This is important. To say that further, the following political party is not a member of any coalition. That is NOPEU. But it has since gotten into some arrangement with the Azimio, yeah. Then you may wish to note, finally, that the following political parties have filed constitutional petitions and or have filed objections with regard to their membership in Azimio. That is Maendeleo Chap, UDM, and MDG. But let me say this now. Let me say this. As I say so, allow me to table this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
members, we shall hear the Honorable Wandai in silence.
Mr. Speaker, this is a matter, and I want to go to Standing Order 19. Standing Order 19. Sorry. I need an assistant at this rate. No. United States, a member of this House, can't be my assistant. Standing Order number 19A, Part 8. Okay? First and foremost, let me go to Standing Order 19A, Part 3. Part 3 says that the majority party whip shall communicate the name of the members elected, of course, as leaders of the coalition, under paragraph 1 to the Speaker in writing on behalf of the majority party. I wanted to say this because there was an argument that Honorable Jeanette didn't attach minutes of the meeting, of the PG meeting. No requirement. There is no requirement under Understanding Order 19A, Part 3 for that. The only time you need the minutes of a PG meeting is when you are changing the leadership of majority or minority. That is at Standing Order 19A, Part 7. The Speaker, Part 8, 19A, Part 8 says, upon receipt of the notification and the documents under paragraph 7, and confirmation that the threshold for removal, well, that is for removal. Okay. At 19A, Part 4, The Speaker shall, as soon as practicable, following receipt of the names under paragraph 3, convey the information to the assembled House if the House is sitting, or notify members if the House is not sitting, as he earlier on alluded. So therefore, what am I saying? That upon the convening of the 13th Parliament, and upon the determination by the clerk of the National Assembly of the status of the various coalitions from the registrar of political parties pursuant to Standing Order 2B, and upon the confirmation by the registrar of political parties to the clerk, the Speaker is simply expected, indeed required, under Standing Order 19A, Part 4, to simply convey the same to the House. That is what the law and the standing orders dictate. Any other thing is mere hot air. Mr. Speaker, let me take you back to the provisions of the Political Parties Act. Because an argument, indeed, very lame argument, has been advanced before that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party is not a coalition. Let me educate you, honorable members. If you go to the Political Parties Act, and this is an act of parliament, you all know, members, that was passed in this House and subsequently amended, including the latest one of this year. If you go to interpretation, in this act, unless the context otherwise requires, political party means an association of citizens with an identifiable ideology or program that is constituted for the purpose of influencing public policy, of nominating candidates to contest elections. And Part B, a political party includes a coalition political party. A political party includes what? A coalition political party. And it goes on to define what a coalition political party means. And says a coalition political party is a coalition that is registered by the registrar as a political party. So in short, therefore, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party is both a political party and a coalition under the Political Parties Act. This is the law. Nobody has challenged it, and no court of law has declared it unconstitutional. As you all know, the power or the mandate to determine constitutionality of any law is vested in the High Court under Article 165 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the High Court, in Petition 043 of 2022, affirmed this position, affirmed the position that Azimio is both a party and a coalition. And let me read excerpt of that ruling, of that court ruling. There was no difference between a coalition party under the old law and a coalition political party. It stated, as for coalitions, the same have always existed in the law as they are provided for in Section 10 of the Political Parties Act. For all practical purposes, we have had coalition political parties in Kenya. One example is the Jubilee Political Party, which comprised parties like TNA, URP, among others. The only difference is that at that time, the constituent parties would be dissolved. But in the new definition of the constituent parties under the Act, parties will retain their individual identities. Therefore, all that the amendment has done is to formalize these practices through legislation. That is the court speaking, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the High Court is speaking. The High Court of the Republic of Kenya is speaking. And again, to educate my colleague, Honorable Didmas, a court judgment is law. It's what we call case law. And until I've said the court. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the author of the letter that I've just quoted from, that is the registrar of political parties, is the official custodian of all coalition agreements. There is actually no need for us to table any agreement, because the author of that letter is the custodian of all these agreements. If you want to confirm with her, you simply take a walk to her office and confirm the same. And confirm the same. We don't act in vain. Okay? Let me conclude. Let me conclude. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that, as I had said earlier on, does not really need to exercise your mind. It's a matter that you can dispense with very easily by simply going back to the Standing Order 2B. And let me say this. Eskin May, who is one of the authorities that is acclaimed the world over, has determined previously in his writings that the matters of leadership of political coalitions or parties in the House is a question of the result of parliamentary elections. If you read the 25th edition of Eskin May, which was published, I think, in 2019, you will come to realize that these matters that we are discussing here are determined way back at the time we are doing parliamentary elections. Indeed, even in the US, the matters of majority and minority are determined in the House of Representatives at the time you are carrying out parliamentary elections. No amount of gerrymandering can change the situation.
Order on the Wandai is a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, as much as I don't like to interrupt my good friend and colleague, but Honorable Speaker, when you allude to court cases that are before the courts, Honorable Speaker, I think it bears, the burden is on the Honorable Pio Wandai to make statements of facts. And Honorable Speaker, the case that the Honorable Pio Wandai alludes to is the same case I was alluding to, and the Honorable Pio Wandai knows that the court indeed did determine, as he says, that a coalition political party is a political party and therefore can field candidates, and the constituent political parties can also field candidates. And that is the reason why Opio Wandai is here as Member of Parliament under ODM. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, that cannot be used to vitiate the fact that Azimio One Kenya coalition does not exist as a coalition of political parties. And the Honorable Opio Wandai did indicate in his submission that Azimio One Kenya, therefore, from that court ruling, can be interpreted to mean that Azimio One Kenya coalition party is a coalition of political parties. The question before the court was on a party and a coalition political parties, not a coalition of parties.
Yes, you have
just 1 minute.
10 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, let me end by saying this, that in the present circumstances, may you be guided by the famous, may you be guided, Mr. Speaker, by the famous doctrine in law of torts, res ipsa loquitur. Yes, Mr. Speaker, with those very many words.
It's
Thank
called
you.
a res ipsa loquitur.
Yes.
I will now give the whip of Kenya Kwanza. If you want to speak later, I can give other members. I had committed to give to the whips.
No, I'm very ready, Honorable Speaker.
After you, Junet, then I'll give members to speak.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
You have 10 minutes.
Okay, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also being the inaugural address in this 13th Parliament, I also wish to take this opportunity to thank the great people of South Mogrango for having faith in me again for the second time, and also wish to congratulate you for being elected as our Speaker for this session. Honorable Speaker, having said that, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to table the letters from the Kenya Kwanza Coalition appointing the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, the Kikuyu Member of Parliament, as the majority leader of the Kenya Kwanza Coalition, Honorable Owen Baya as the Deputy Majority Leader, and Honorable Naomi Wako as the Deputy Chief Whip of this coalition. Honorable Speaker, those letters are accompanied by the resolution. Junet, you need to cool down. No, I have tabled the letters appointing the majority leader and the deputy majority leader, Honorable Speaker, and those letters are accompanied by the...
Yes, Junet. What's your point of order?
Of course, I behave like somebody who has been here before. Mr. Speaker, I didn't want to interrupt him. I wanted to bring to your attention that when a member is tabling a document, Mr. Speaker, he does it himself. It's procedural. He can't give it to someone, go and table for me. So on the records, it will be tabled by the other member and not him. So, I know he has been busy in the campaign.
No. Honorable Speaker, I stand guided, but I think I appointed somebody, of course, to become my handsman for just this particular session, but they are adequately tabled as guided. But if you so wish, of course, I can have them back and then table it myself.
Go on.
Exactly. But they are well tabled, Honorable Junet. Honorable Speaker, the tabled documents or the tabled letters annexed with are with the resolutions and the minutes from the Kenya Kwanza Coalition. What you will note in those resolutions, and even the attendees of that list, as indicated in the entire list, is that in the minutes, people who attended the meeting that appointed Honorable Ichung'wah as the majority leader, the members that attended are about 179, drawn from different parties. And if you'll allow me, Honorable Speaker, in the attendance, UDA had 145, UDM had 8, PA had 3, MCCP had 2 in that meeting, MDG had 1, ANC 8, Ford Kenya 6, TSP 2, DP 1, CCM 1, NAP Kenya 1, and GDDP 1. In total, Honorable Speaker, those are 179 members. Honorable Speaker, in the past 1 week, I've been very busy also, receiving several members of this House, requesting me to place them in committees, some of which are independent members of Parliament. In total, possibly they could be 10. So today, we are talking about 189 members associating themselves with the Kenya Kwanza Coalition and, of course, clearly describing our majority in terms of numbers. Honorable Speaker, if this was a marriage that you are called to be a vicar, then clearly the consummation of marriage happened in Naivasha. A child was born, and actually not one, not two, but four, Honorable Speaker. And now you are being invited today to make a determination on which particular spouse a certain spouse wants. A marriage is claimed to have taken place about 2 months ago or thereabout, and there is a spouse who feels, I don't belong here, and is decided to go this other direction. And that spouse is equipped with the Constitution of Kenya, Article 38, Article 36, on the rights of association. Honorable Speaker, even a first-year student knows that a contractual agreement entered under coercion and threats is a nullity, and you cannot validate it, Honorable Speaker, even from your seat. Any agreement that is entered at night, entered through blackmail and coercion, is a nullity. Today, I challenge the Honorable Junet, who, of course, is salivating for my majority whip seat, to table before you a resolution by the Azimio coalition party today with a list of members who have appended their signatures in attendance of that particular meeting, a resolution and minutes of that particular meeting, and not mere statements that we are the numbers, we are the majority. At some point, of course, we were together, and now, of course, you need to, we had a coalition agreement. Honorable Speaker, you and I know, as legal practitioners, that any law, any legislation, or any agreement that contravenes the supreme law of the land, and that is the Constitution, is null and void. Our Constitution, Honorable Speaker, is supreme. Article 36 provides for rights of association. You cannot force MDG to go in bed with you. They do not want. And they are protected by Article 36. You can't force them. You cannot force independence. You cannot force Maendeleo Chap to go in bed with you. You cannot use a mere paper that you coerced members to sign, that you've got to be with us. You signed this paper. Those people are protected. Those members are protected under Article 36 and Article 38. Honorable Speaker, the invitation you are being called upon to determine on a mere paper, on a mere agreement, that even the contents to which were not shared to those people who signed is wrong. Please decline that invitation. The majority coalition is Kenya Kwanza. And the right of association cannot be downplayed by a mere agreement. Honorable Speaker, the third point that, as you retire to make your determination, that you need to relook at, is the provision of Article 108 on the definition of what a political party is. Honorable Speaker, by all standards, from whichever angle you choose to look at this whole thing, the definition of Azimio as it stands now is simply Azimio Coalition Party. It stands with the same level. It positions itself with the same level as ODM, as UDA, as Maendeleo Chap, and all these other parties. And today, Honorable Speaker, if you call for account the members of Azimio Coalition Party here in this House, you'll get none. There is only one member of Azimio Coalition Party, as provided, if you go by the definition of Article 108(2), and that is the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. All the rest are members of parties, including myself. I'm a member of UDA. The Honorable Junet is a member of ODM, who enjoy a sizable number of these in this House. They are only 88. And I also want to echo the sentiments of my colleague, Honorable Ishungwa, when he said that they've also been very fair to award or to give, to share their very small, meager cake to their short brothers, to their brothers who don't deserve, the Wiper and the other parties. Honorable Speaker, we challenge them today.
Yes, the Honorable, yes, Honorable Mbui.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to stand to interrupt his debate, but Mr. Speaker, honestly, is it parliamentary for us, for the member of parliament, to belittle political parties that are actually parliamentary parties because they already have hit the 5% threshold that the standing orders define? So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask that the member respect this party and withdraw those statements.
Honorable Speaker,
yes.
For clarity purposes, what I meant is Wiper is short in number. They're actually very short in this house. That was my description. So, as I wind up, Honorable Speaker.
Your time is up.
That is all, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Okay. The Honorable Junet, 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I want to congratulate you first for being elected as a Speaker, but secondly, Mr. Speaker, we are a country that is governed by the Constitution and the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, you know, and members know very well, that we have, as a country, decided to govern our, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, as a country, we have decided to manage our politics in a certain way, legally, Mr. Speaker. And I know, Mr. Speaker, that we did an amendment to the Political Parties Act here. And as alluded to by Honorable Ishungwa, it may have been as acrimonious as possible. But, Mr. Speaker, the law was passed. The law was assented to. And some of the architects might be even in this house with us. But anyway, that's a story for another day, Mr. Speaker. The law was assented to, Mr. Speaker, and the law was passed. And the law was taken to the Constitutional Court by a private citizen. And the court affirmed that the law was enacted constitutionally, Mr. Speaker. Having said, Mr. Speaker, that, and numbers were raised here, and voting was done, and everything was done. But, Mr. Speaker, the issue I want to raise here is that in governing our politics, we decided to have pre-election coalitions and post-election coalitions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we are discussing here are members of parties that made a pre-election coalition agreement, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, that agreement was registered with the political parties registrar. And, Mr. Speaker, when I finish my presentation, I want to table that coalition agreement, Mr. Speaker, which is with me here. And all those parties have signed, Mr. Speaker, through their signatures, Mr. Speaker, in a broad daylight, in a ceremony that was held at KICC, Mr. Speaker. Those who are saying it was at night, maybe that time they were campaigning somewhere. But the ceremony, Mr. Speaker, started at 9 a.m. in the morning and ended at 3 a.m. And we went to a rally in Jacaranda after that until 6 p.m., Mr. Speaker, 3 p.m. And all these parties, Wiper, Kenya African Union, KANU, National Rainbow Coalition, National NARC Kenya, Muungano Party, this is Maendeleo Chap-Chap, Mr. Speaker. They have signed here with their secretary, Mr. Wilfred Sijui Nyamu, Mr. Speaker, Democratic Action Party, Devolution, all of them signed here, Mr. Speaker. And I want to table this agreement, Mr. Speaker. And Ochieng Party, Mr. Speaker, MDG, signed here. And I know why he signed, Mr. Speaker, but that's a story for another day. Mr. Speaker, we must respect our laws, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you yourself, you are a party leader, Mr. Speaker, before the election. And you decided on your own volition, you want to have, your party wants to have a pre-election coalition agreement with another coalition, Mr. Speaker. And those parties should have followed you suit, Mr. Speaker. You cannot, Mr. Speaker, break a marriage, just to pick from where Honorable Osoro left. You cannot engage in another marriage, Mr. Speaker, and marry another person before you divorce the first one, Mr. Speaker. And when you want to divorce, there is a divorce procedure to follow, Mr. Speaker. You must divorce procedurally, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I want to say is that, Mr. Speaker, this pre-election coalition agreement is in force, Mr. Speaker. It is registered. This country has left the era when coalition agreements used to be rubbish the way they want, Mr. Speaker. That is what made the Political Parties Act to bring provisions that make sure that coalition agreements are held against the people who signed for it, Mr. Speaker. You remember the MOUs that were signed in 2002, the MOUs that were signed. When the new constitution came, this parliament, in its own wisdom, pass the Political Parties Act and say that you have to deposit the agreement with the registrar of political parties. If you want to exit this coalition agreement, there are exit clauses you have to follow. There are clauses that allow you to exit, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the parties that claim to have left this coalition, Mr. Speaker, have written to me as the Secretary General of Azimio. They have petitions. They are saying after that they are going to the Constitutional Court to get an order to get out of the coalition, that is the right route. If they knew they can walk in and walk out as they wish, why are they deciding to go to court? They should have just walked away like somebody who's in a supermarket, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is either, when we came here, Mr. Speaker, we swore to uphold and defend the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. That is the oath of office we took. And the Constitution demands us to respect instruments of legal nature like this that you have committed to yourself to, Mr. Speaker. If you want to walk out of it the way you want, that's your choice. But the fact of the matter is, this country will be governed by the rule of law. This country will be governed by the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how do we have a mature democracy? Mr. Speaker, this presidential system that we are using to govern our country, we borrowed from the United States of America. Mr. Speaker, there are times when the president of the Republic of Kenya does not have the numbers in the Congress, but he does not cease being the president of that republic. They have midterm elections where the president loses the Congress. Obama lost it in 2015, I think, but he did not cease being the president of the Republic of the United States of America. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't mean that for you to become president, you must have the numbers in Parliament. No. Parliament is a separate arm of government. Mr. Speaker, you can still remain the president and you still don't have numbers in the National Assembly. Maybe you have the numbers in the Senate. That is how mature democracies operate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you can get numbers in Parliament through election. You cannot get members of Parliament through poaching, Mr. Speaker. That's a fact of the matter, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we want to categorically say on the floor of this House, the precedents we are going to set this Parliament, this time, is going to be for posterity, because we are going to have elections in 2027. A president might be elected who is going to have less numbers in the National Assembly. Then he wants to force people to accept that he's the majority party in Parliament because he's the president. No, the presidential election is separate from the parliamentary election, Mr. Speaker. People can be elected in one party, in one coalition, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, let us not mutilate democracy on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker. We must accept that the will of the people of Kenya, who elected the president as the president, must be respected as the will of the people who gave certain coalition and certain party the majority in this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am being told that Azimio la Umoja, one party, has no leadership in this House. Their presidential candidate is in this House. The leader of the Kenya Kwanza is not in this House, Mr. Speaker. He is sitting in State House. He's the president, he is in State House. He's not in this House with us. So there is no requirement the leader of a coalition must be in this House, Mr. Speaker. The leader of the coalition can sit anywhere in town so long as his troops and his members of Parliament are in this House, Mr. Speaker. You cannot, then let us have the president here sitting with us, Mr. Speaker, as the leader of the Kenya Kwanza coalition, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we don't want even ourselves as Azimio la Umoja to be given a due advantage, Mr. Speaker. If we had less numbers, Mr. Speaker, the will of the people, these parties that joined Azimio la Umoja One Kenya, Mr. Speaker, came knowing very well that they are in this coalition in their rightful state of mind, Mr. Speaker, and the people who elected them to this House knew very well that they are in that coalition, Mr. Speaker. It will be betrayal of the people who elected those people in the name of Azimio, Mr. Speaker, for them to come to Nairobi, for them to come to the Parliament and change course, Mr. Speaker. That is not the democracy we want to advance in this country, Mr. Speaker. Let us have let us have politics that follows the law, Mr. Speaker. Let us have politics that respects institutions, Mr. Speaker. For example, just wait, Pokose. Mr. Speaker, the registrar of political society, political party, Mr. Speaker, has this document.
Point of order, Honorable Junet.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to know, Mr. Speaker, is it in order, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, standing order number 1, Mr. Speaker, which state claims, Mr. Speaker, that Honorable Junaid Mohammed, Mr. Speaker, correct? The Speaker, should Junaid Mohammed, the Speaker, lie to the House that he is the Director of Elections in ODM and again, as Secretary General of Azimio Umoja as a party, Mr. Speaker? One must pay allegiance to one political party. Can you tell us, Mr. Speaker, which position he holds in both Azimio and ODM? And a promoter of BBI, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I know.
Honorable Junaid, your time is up. I give you 30 seconds to...
Mr. Speaker, to conclude my submission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this Parliament has a date with destiny, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. The way we rule on this matter, Mr. Speaker, will determine the way our politics will be conducted going forward. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge you, with humility, have fidelity to the Constitution and the law. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Duale.
Mr. Speaker, today is a day that I'll remember. Early this year, we had the Political Parties Amendment Bill, very chaotic, and Mr. Speaker, the CS until I am approved by this august House. Mr. Speaker, I remember, and the answer will prove me right. I told my colleagues then that don't make laws that will haunt you. And there are people who are running away from that chaos. As they say, Murive, don't run. Murive, don't run. Junaid and his colleagues, don't run. This matter must be decided this afternoon. And Mr. Speaker, your predecessors have decided more complex issues. I was with you in the 10th Parliament, during the Grand Coalition government, where the leader of government business used to be the chair of the House Business Committee. And when the Vice President, then Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga argued who will chair, Speaker Marende took over. So, Mr. Speaker, in the legislature, you are the arbiter. You should not be referred to anything. Listen to us, and based on law and facts and evidence. Mr. Speaker, what my colleagues, our opponents, are going through is what the medical doctors call placebo. Placebo is something, a lie, a healing. You claim that you have healed psychologically, but you have not healed. So in in March of this year, early this year, the Speaker, you know we are not in Isli, where me and him talk to each other like that. We are in the guest house, Speaker. Yeah. When we are in Isli, we can talk to you right the way we want. Yeah, this is a guest house. Yes. Mr. Speaker, so Mr. Speaker, they thought this was the healing. The healing time is over. But Mr. Speaker, I want you to rule on 6 things I want to tell you. And Mr. Speaker, and I want to start with Article 2 of the Constitution, sub-Article 4 says, any law, including customary law, that is inconsistent with this Constitution is void to the extent of the inconsistency, and any act or commission in contravention of this Constitution is invalid. Even an act of Parliament passed by this House, if it is not consistent with this Constitution, it is null and void. Mr. Speaker, Article 36 of the Constitution, and Article 36 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is on the Bill of Rights. It's about human rights. It says the freedom of association. Speaker, you have to give me my time then, you know, when I'm disrupted.
Give him the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Watch.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Is it in order that the former majority leader misleads this House by giving the impression that the question of constitutionality or nullity is a question that can be determined otherwise than by a court of law. We can have our own interpretations, we can have our own thinking of what is constitutional or not, but this is a question that can only be determined by a court of law. Is it in order?
Mr. Speaker, in this august house, you are the arbiter. You are the ones who decide. Those who go to the judicial system, to the courts, you can go, as Honorable Wandai said. So, Mr. Speaker, Article 36 is in the Bill of Rights. For even to amend it, you must go to a referendum. It's about freedom of association. And it says that you can join, you can participate in any activity of any association of your kind. 36(2) says that nobody can compel you to join. Mr. Speaker, PA, MDG, and I want to thank the leader of MDG, is in this house. He is a leader to be watched in Luo Nyanza. He's a serious guy. He came to this house with a small party in Siaya, from Siaya County. He must enjoy his rights, Mr. Speaker. The framers of the Constitution protected MDG. The framers of the Constitution, both in letter and spirit, protected PA as a party and its membership, rank and file. Article 38, Mr. Speaker, and you must rule on it. Again, in the Bill of Rights, it's about human rights. It says on political rights that provides political rights of every person, including members of PA, members of MDG, members of small parties. Mandela Chapter, they have got political rights, and the Constitution under Article 38 defense. Mr. Speaker, a legal document signed, and I'm sure when you talk to the Speaker of the Senate, your colleague, you talk to the Foreign Secretary nominee, they will tell you they signed the last page under coercion, under intimidation. Mr. Speaker, do you follow that document? Mr. Speaker, let me finish. Let me finish here this time. Mr. Speaker, let me finish. And you have to give me time.
Yes, the Honorable Chege.
I'll prove. I'll bring Kinot here. Kinot is still right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, I respect Honorable Duale as a ranking member. And any evidence that he gives to this House must be factual. So for him to come and lie to this House that people signed under coercion, it is really very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. And I would like, Mr. Speaker, that we strict ourselves to the facts. We have people who are here, Mr. Speaker.
They will speak.
Who signed, they can speak on their behalf and on themselves. And so I would really urge Honorable Member, Honorable Duale, to just speak the facts.
Mr. Speaker, you need to add me time. Mr. Speaker, in this House, Mr. Speaker, my good sister, Sabina Chege, at that time was the custodian of the instrument. Honorable Ochieng will speak. Honorable Kamket will speak. Yes. Members of PA will speak. Yes. Members of Mandela Chapter will speak. And they will say under what condition, under what environment they signed. And the people of Kenya must hear to David Ochieng. Yes. And Mr. Speaker, because a commission of inquiry into certain things might be formed. So relax. Mr. Speaker, listen to us under Article 36, Sub-Article 1, Article 36, Sub-Article 2, Sub-Article 38 on political rights. Mr. Speaker, the other thing you need to, I'm inviting you to is whether Azimio coalition is a political party or a coalition party. And Mr. Speaker, I want to give as a ranking member. These are members who will approve me. And please, now I'm the member for township. In fact, the serious issue Azimio should think about is that they will not access the political party's fund. And I'll tell you why. The 6.9 million votes, Honorable Raila Odinga, a man who inducted me into politics, got it. He was the only candidate of that party in the general election. There was no MCS in Azimio.
There were no MPs. There were no governors. Read the Political Parties Act. It says, Mr. Speaker, defend me from.
Pursuing an argument.
No, I'm pursuing an argument. You will have your time. No, Mr. Speaker, you can't shout. You can't shout when I'm on my feet. No.
Order, Honorable Chonga.
Mr. Speaker, yes.
Honorable Dwale. Honorable Chonga, I believe you're a first termer. Second term. Okay. Then you should know even better that order, Honorable Chonga.
Speaker is talking.
Honorable Chonga, there are your colleagues here who are here for the first time, and they are looking to you to learn on how to conduct yourself. It's out of order to stand up and shout at your colleague across the aisle. You seek the Speaker's permission, then you pursue a counter argument. But you do not stand up and behave in a rally situation, which I said we shouldn't have.
Mr. Speaker, because I have been very much interrupted, we'll give you about 3 more minutes. Mr. Speaker, I want you to also, I invite you to
I give you 2 minutes because
I want to invite you to whether the exit clause in the post-election agreement has any basis. Mr. Speaker, I looked at the Political Parties Act 2011. There is nowhere that will stop PAR and these other parties from exiting. Let my colleagues tell me which section. Mr. Speaker, you need to look at whether, Speaker, some are telling you that the matter is sub judice. I agree. But Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 89.5 allows you as a Speaker to allow this House to discuss a matter that is in court. So, Mr. Speaker, we are within the parameters of law. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Speaker used the Constitution. Use Article 108. This matter is very serious. Forget about coalitions, Mr. Speaker. Deal with the political parties. If you have got 84 members, that is your share as ODM. If you have 145 members, that is a share given to you by the people of Kenya, UDA. If you have got 5 or 10, like Kanu, Kamket has left, now you have less shares. If you are PAR, there are 3. They want to enjoy their freedom. Mr. Speaker, during your predecessor, he made a ruling on a matter concerning Honorable David Ochieng. When David Ochieng was elected in a small party and coming from ODM stronghold, they refused to give him. That time they were called NASA. You know, they mutate. I'm in this house. From CORD to NASA to Azimio, the mutation and the turnover is so high. You know, it's so high, Mr. Speaker. I don't know what they will be, but Mr. Speaker, the Speaker ruled that Ochieng must be given a committee. Mr. Speaker, defend PAR members. They have the rights under Article 38. Mr. Speaker, do not look at agreements signed by you. You are at one time, Mr. Speaker, on a lighter note, you were even at one time about to join Azimio. But God forbid you are a good Christian. You didn't join. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Dwale, no member shall use Mr. Speaker to advance an argument. The Honorable John Badi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me first start by saying that I think we have started in the right direction. Why do I say so? Mr. Speaker, by allowing members to ventilate on this matter, to me comes out very clearly that Mr. Speaker wants to benefit from opinions or contributions by members from across the political divide. Mr. Speaker, there are certain things that are not in contention. What is not in contention is, one, that both Kenya Kwanza Coalition and Azimio One Kenya Alliance Coalition are not in dispute on who should lead the two coalitions. That there is just one letter coming from Kenya Kwanza nominating Kimani Chungwa as the leader, Owen Baya as the deputy, Honorable Soro as the whip, and of course, my great sister as the deputy whip. Again, from the Azimio side, there is no dispute. The leader is Opio Wandai, James Opio Wandai, deputized by Mbui. The whip is Junet Mohammed, to be deputized by Sabina Chege. So that matter is settled. Both sides are clear on who should lead them. So the issue of minutes, appended, attached, copies to be provided or submitted to the House rests there. Because unless there was contention as to who has been nominated by either side, then we would be discussing whether there are minutes, there are addendum, or whatever it is. So having settled that, Mr. Speaker, what therefore is in contention in this House is which side is the majority. That is where we see the argument from Kimani Chungwa and his team, and Opio Wandai and his team arguing. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is not ambiguous. Article 108 talks about the leader of majority being the leader of the party or coalition of parties which has the majority membership in this House. Since it is clear, then what is not clear? What is being disputed here is these two coalitions, which has the majority membership. Now, I have heard the argument that we passed a law in this House that has created chaos or caused chaos. Nothing could be further from the truth, Mr. Speaker. Let us accept the legal framework that we have. We might have been used to the old framework, but what we created at the House was where we can have a political party with corporate membership, and therefore, basically, is a coalition political party and coalition of parties. Mr. Speaker, if you want to argue that Azimio na Umoja One Kenya is a political party and not a coalition of political parties, the question you will want to ask or address yourself to is, what are the legal provisions for registering a political party? The legal provisions are clear. You must have 24,000 members, at least 1,000 from majority of our counties, which are 24. Azimio na Umoja One Kenya Alliance was exempted from that. Why? Because it is a corporate political party. Mr. Speaker, when you say that this is not a coalition, the next question you will ask, where in this country, of the 47 counties, does Azimio na Umoja One Kenya Alliance has a registered party office? None. Yet that is a requirement in law to register a political party. The reason why Azimio was accepted to be registered is because it is a corporate political party. So the moment ODM, Wiper, Jubilee, KANU, ETC have registered offices, then Azimio na Umoja, in effect, has registered offices. Mr. Speaker, it is in that same reasoning why Raila Amolo Odinga, when he was presenting his papers to IEBC, was cleared because there was a requirement that he should present signatures of proposers and supporters. And those signatures must be from members of your political party. Azimio la Umoja does not have even a single direct membership. And therefore, Raila was cleared, having been supported by members of KANU, members of Wiper, members of ODM, members of Jubilee. Therefore, those members of KANU, members of ODM, members of Jubilee are all members of Azimio la Umoja as a corporate entity. The moment you are a member of ODM, by extension, you are also a member of Azimio la Umoja political party. Therefore, this reasoning that there is no member in this House who is a member of Azimio is faulty. You cannot. There is a gentleman in this House. His name is Junet Sheikh Nur Mohammed. This gentleman is the Secretary General of Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition. and he's representing the people of Suna East. And then you come here and argue, and he's registered with the Register of Political Parties as the Secretary General. Then you come here and you want to say that Azimio la Umoja does not even have a single member of parliament. That completely is misrepresentation of facts. Mr. Speaker, Azimio la Umoja was exempted from provisions of Section 5 and Section 6 of the Political Parties Act. Why? Because this is a corporate political entity, political party, which has corporate membership. And that is why we were amending the law here, so that you could provide a situation where a political party is both a political party where you can be a member directly, and at the same time, political parties can be members of that political party. And that is the situation as it obtains today. You can take advantage of it and dissolve all, and make sure that all your political parties are also collapsed into one mega or a bigger political outfit called Kenya Kwanza, without having to just have it as coalition of political parties. Mr. Speaker, you know, Azimio la Umoja is based on coalition agreement, just like any other coalition, like Kenya Kwanza. It is based on coalition agreement. And Mr. Speaker, I listened very carefully, and I was trying to avoid usage of these words, but I'll use it. I'll use them, because Honorable Soro did use them. Honorable Soro was saying that you cannot stop a political party from going to bed with another one. That if someone has married another person, you cannot stop that person from going to bed. Yes, you can't stop anybody from going to bed with another, but you can stop another marriage before the earlier marriage is dissolved. So someone can go to bed as they so wish, but marriage only subsists.
Sorry, Honorable Mbadi, there's a point of order. Give him the mic. There it is.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Mbadi is my mentor. I did not really want to interrupt him. But I now see that this may progress and progress and progress. We have parliamentary language. And that language is using that marriage going into bed, though earlier used by Osoro, is unparliamentary. So please, we could restrain ourselves from that. I'm very sorry, Honorable Mbadi, but you are a seasoned member. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I think Honorable Mboko is uncomfortable with the language, but the language is not unparliamentary. Going to bed is just going to bed. And marriage is marriage. But what I'm saying is you cannot start another marriage until you wind up the previous marriage. So, Honorable Soro, you should advise your new, what do you call them, the new whatever, to make sure that the other marriage is concluded first. But, Mr. Speaker, there was an argument here by Honorable Duale, which if you allow me to challenge, that there is something unconstitutional about what we have done in terms of making agreements. There is nothing unconstitutional. Article 92 of the Constitution allows Parliament to enact legislation to provide for the regulation of political parties. And in doing that, we created Political Parties Act, which gave rise within the Act to the agreements. Finally, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say this. As you protect the rights of those members of PAR, MDG, and others who want to leave Azimio, remember there is also the rights of people of Ugenya who elected Uchieng, knowing very well that he was Azimio, and he has not consulted them. So whose right is superior? Is it the on to Kenya?
Your time is up, the Honorable John Mbadi. From now going forward, thank you, Honorable Mbadi. Allow me to regulate your time down to 5 minutes per member. Are we in agreement? Yes. I'll give the floor to the Honorable David Ocheng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would request for 10 because my name has been mentioned so many times, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on this particular matter...
compress your arguments in 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, on this particular matter, I wrote to your office on the 9th of September, Mr. Speaker, about our position in Azimio, having left the coalition party and joined Kenya Kwanza, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have that letter here and I would like to table it. Mr. Speaker, the reasons for our leaving Azimio are very instructive because so much has been said about us and how the marriage was done, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after the elections, the MDG NEC sat and reviewed the campaigns and our situation in Azimio la Umoja, Mr. Speaker. And members brought the following issues. One, that in the former Nyanza, the Azimio leadership was so hostile to the MDG members running in that party, they were called Madoadoa. They were told that Azimio ends in Awasi, that when you come from Nairobi and you get to Awasi, you now leave Azimio is dead, it's ODM stronghold, Mr. Speaker. This same thing happened in my constituency. When the Azimio party leader came to my constituency, I couldn't even attend because I was a Madoadoa. How would I be a Madoadoa and still belong to the party that calls me Madoadoa, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I would also like to table a letter from the register of political parties. We've written to the register severally, asking for a copy of the Azimio la Umoja 1 Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Up to date, we've not been given to it. Mr. Speaker, I'm tabling a letter here again today, the register telling us that they cannot give it to us, go to Azimio la Umoja. Mr. Speaker, I must say that what the Honorable Junet has tabled today, no one can verify its authenticity. No one knows whether what is tabled is the document that we signed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the letter that I have here, if you allow me to read it, this letter I'm holding is from the register of political parties to our party, saying they cannot give us the agreement, we go to the Azimio la Umoja headquarters, Mr. Speaker. You go there, you're told, come back tomorrow. Come back next week, Mr. Speaker. Up to now, our party has never received a copy of this agreement. I've perused what you have given to us, Mr. Speaker, and I dare say that the content of that agreement are not the ones that we negotiated, Mr. Speaker. So I cannot verify, I cannot truthfully say that what the Union has tabled here today is what we negotiated, what we signed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, number 3, our party says that Azimio la Umoja had 3 organs: the council, the NEC, and the secretariat, Mr. Speaker. In all those organs, the council, the NEC, the secretariat, MDG has no body representing them there, not one. So how do we belong to a coalition that doesn't recognize that we exist, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, on the 29th of August this year, we wrote to the registrar withdrawing a membership of Azimio. I also wish to have letter, Mr. Speaker, and the minutes of our NEC withdrawing membership from Azimio la Umoja, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, very important, Mr. Speaker, is the argument of the nature of the Azimio political party, Mr. Speaker. What has been tabled today by Mr. Junet, Mr. Speaker, is the instrument for registering Azimio coalition party. Mr. Speaker, there is nowhere, you won't find other political parties, there's nowhere where the party is forming Azimio registered a coalition. Because you must distinguish the two. There's a coalition party and the means a coalition of parties.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker, it's not my intention to interrupt the honorable member, but Mr. Speaker, I urge him first to go through the document, Mr. Speaker. It is well written inside there, the formation of the Azimio coalition. Mr. Speaker, misrepresentation of facts, Mr. Speaker, will not be, this is a house of records. So we don't want it to go on record when the document is very clear on the formation of the Azimio coalition. It's well stipulated in the document.
Mr. Speaker, the document holding, which was tabled by Junet, says a deal of agreement in respect of the Azimio la Umoja 1 Kenya being a coalition political party. My argument is this, Mr. Speaker, that for the argument that Azimio is a coalition within the frame of 108 and 19 of our standing orders, 2 things must have been done. 1, register Azimio as a coalition party, which is done. But where is the Azimio coalition of parties agreement to enable them claim that there are collusion at the same time. That's the argument that I'm trying to make, Mr. Speaker. That there's a distinction between a coalition party on the one hand, which there is and exists, and a coalition of parties. Azimio is saying they have two legs. The only one you are being given today is one leg. Where's the other leg, Mr. Speaker?
Your time is up.
Mr. Speaker, allow me. I just have maybe 2 more minutes, Mr. Speaker.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker.
30 seconds. Give him 30 seconds. I've given him 30 seconds.
Thank you.
You have a mic next to you. 30
This is
seconds.
too short. Mr. Speaker, the same law we passed, Mr. Speaker, the same law we passed here in May allows a member of a party to be deemed to have resigned from the party if that member forms another party, joins another party, or talks about forming another party, Mr. Speaker. If the MDG party has clearly, openly, publicly said they are part of Kenya Kwanza coalition. Mr. Speaker, we request that you deem MDG under that law to have moved away from Azimio political party to Kenya Kwanza coalition, Mr. Speaker. So submitted. Thank you.
The Honorable Naisula Lesuda. She's left. I'll give to the Honorable Kamket.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this is my first time to speak in the 13th Parliament, and I want to thank the people of Tiati for bringing me back to this Parliament, and congratulate you also and your deputy for your election as Speaker and Deputy. Mr. Speaker, as you make your determination on this matter, I would like you to have me in mind as a member for Parliament for Tiati constituency. Mr. Speaker, as you have me in mind, kindly refer to Article 36 of the Constitution in its entirety. And I ask you, Mr. Speaker, to protect me from being forced to stay in an abusive marriage. I plead with you, Mr. Speaker, to protect me from being forced in a very bad marriage. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I have just seen the Honorable Junet table a document which was not disclosed to us throughout. The document he has tabled is not known to me as a member of KANU. It was never disclosed to us. We kept asking for it, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, I cannot be party to an agreement that was signed without my knowledge of the material facts in it. And Mr. Speaker, as a pastoralist, Mr. Speaker, and a very serious nomadic pastoralist, Mr. Speaker, I cannot be put in a cage. I cannot be tied to a tree. If my cow cannot be tethered to a tree, how can a whole me, the member of Parliament for Tiati constituency, be tied to a tree? Mr. Speaker, the question as you determine this matter, you need to ask yourself is this: which agreement supersedes the other? Is it the pre-election agreement or post-election agreement? Because, Mr. Speaker, it depends on how the agreement was reached. If the agreement was reached through deceit and duress, Mr. Speaker, these honorable members know that I was arrested severally in the last term on trumped-up charges. Is that not one of the reasons why some of us decided to play along at that time? Yes. And now we are here as free. Freedom has come to the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. We shall hear the Honorable Kamket in silence.
So, Mr. Speaker, as you retire to determine this matter, it is important to take into account the present circumstances. You cannot, Mr. Speaker, deny the honorable members of this House, those who have attained that freedom, the opportunity to exercise their political and constitutional rights as provided for in Article 36 of the Constitution. Fundamentally, I mean, even in the provided in the laws of natural justice, Mr. Speaker, that when an old agreement, when a new agreement is signed, the other one just dies naturally. And when somebody makes a decision today, yesterday's decision does not matter. I am now, yes, laws of natural justice. So, Mr. Speaker, I plead with you. I plead with you, Mr. Speaker, to save me from that bad, abusive marriage.
Time up.
I was not the Azimio candidate. I am a member of parliament for Tiati, and my people know that I'm in Kenya.
I'll give the floor to the Honorable Didymus Baraza. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.